All right, it must be my lucky day. Coach McCurry, wherever you are, and by the way, that was me on your caller ID. I did reach out. I'll reach out again about something else coming up a little bit later. I got a really special broadcast planned for the day after Thanksgiving, in which we are going to, at the flagship home of KDKA, have a lot of exciting football. So I'm going to have some of the legendary coaches drop by in the morning to reminisce a little bit, and he is truly one of them. Before we go through the 1987 season, what's Coach McCurry mean to you, Dr. Rob Potter?
Coach McCurry, boy. The first thing I think of Coach McCurry would be educator before I would think of a coach.
Right.
More educator, coaching being a part of that educating, but somebody who really was in it for, I think, all the right reasons to turn the young boys more into young men that are going to be benefits for society, that sort of thing.
I remember him as an athlete at Richland before it became Pine Richland in Geneva, and I spent a lot of time in Geneva through the years. My friend Gino DeMarco, who's going to be with us on the day after Thanksgiving, bright and early in the morning at KDK Radio. But the very first coach that I ever interviewed was a guy by the name of Gene Sullivan, who was Richland's coach when Jack McCurry was playing. So
Good friend of my dad. Good friend of my dad, Gene Sullivan. Yeah.
A blessed, just human being, and sadly no longer with us, but much love for his family. Now, so it's 1987. Rinky Morris, your quarterback, carries on that football team. Just what they did, 435 to 20, meaning opponents only scored 20 points on them throughout the season, and those points came when the second and third teams were in late in the game. To think about a first-team defense to never have anybody score upon them, that's, to this day, one of the most amazing statistics in the history of high school.
Not only did anyone score upon them, no offensive team even crossed their 30-yard line. So they never even had to go into a goal line defense the whole year.
Do you remember who the defensive coordinator was then?
Yeah, sure, Gus Nauman.
Okay. So
Gus Nauman, who was the head coach when I played at North Allegheny, he was the head coach. But then when McCurry got hired, he hired Gus back as the defensive coordinator, and he was a great defensive coordinator.
You know, Pat's been here since 2013. McCurry's legacy, we talked about Eric Kasparovich in 93 when they won the Whitfield and the state. Now, back in 87, and I made sure I talked to this guy as opposed to even Googling it because he was here, there was no state championship of opportunity back then. But here's what amazed me. They were 4A then. So you had to get through Central Catholic, you had to get through, of course, North Allegheny, and then you had that game, that epic game that won you the WPIL, which you just rolled through. I think it was 21-0 against Mount Lebanon. What was the landscape like then compared to now? You know, you've got 6A now, but I don't think people realize the Division I football players who were here at the time. We mentioned Renke, who went on to play at Penn State, hurt his neck, didn't play much after that. But every night, every Friday, every location, every stadium, here, there, and everywhere, there was multiple Division I talent, future talent on the football field, right?
That's right. And the schedule they played then, the regular season schedule, they played all the best teams. You know, there weren't a lot of divisions. The 4A at that time, when they played Mount Lebanon, Bethel Park, Upper St. Clair, those were all the regular season games. Penn Hills, North Allegheny, of course, was the big rival. And they all had players, I think, that were going to Division I. Not as many as North Hills did at that year, but it was a tough schedule.
Okay, we always talk about moral victories.
Gateway, the other one.
Talk about Shaler, what they did,
Yeah.
about what they scored 6, and they were.
No, that was I think it was Bethel Park.
Bethel Park.
Bethel
Okay.
Park scored 6, and as they left the field, they were sort of chanting, "We got 6," as though that was. They
was a
lost
moral-
35-6, but they got 6.
Moral victory.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that year? I mean, it had to, when USA Today, the story, it must have been like, I just can't believe it.
Well, they were ranked number 1 in the USA Today going into the season, and McCurry. Most coaches would say, "Well, we haven't done anything," but he said, "If we don't win the national championship, it would be a disappointment." Before the season started, and they did. I mean, every game was pretty much decided by the end of the first quarter. It was a little bit boring. They didn't throw passes because they didn't have to. They had, I think, 3 running backs, including the quarterback, Greg Morris, who all averaged over 8 yards a carry, so they just ran over people.
You know, when I've been here, and this isn't the first time, but I actually, a couple of Fridays ago, and I told my radio audience, I was over at Coons Market on McKnight Road doing some social media stuff. And I've been reminiscing a lot about my journey in this incredible sport. 20 years behind the microphone, hosting that show with Highmark. So blessed to have them for so many years, and Dr. Mayo. And of course, Eastern Ohio, done it all, every type of sports. It really did start here with Rhino Productions at Monterelli Stadium. And I was here driving around before one of your games, and the rain was coming down, the band was in their slickers, the tuba player was trying to get into the parking lot. And I literally just started to shed tears because that's how much this place and Coach McCurry means to me. I know Pat wants to do better than what they did last year, and I'm sure they'll get it turned around, but North Hills has had a rough go of it of late for sure. No one, I'm sure, wants to get back more than Pat. But this place just means so much, and it's nestled in a neighborhood that was kind of that first generation of people that were working in the mills that moved out to the suburbs. Why is this place just so, I don't know, it just has such a special place in my heart up here in North Hills. What is it about this place?
Well, like I said, it is really a neighborhood. I mean, it's Westview and Ross. It doesn't encompass a large area. The field is here right in the middle of Westview, down in the valley. There's regular homes all around it. And it is a family sort of feeling. You know, people come, they don't have kids here anymore, but the local people still come to the games, enjoy the games.
All these years, I never noticed this. There's a mural of Westview Park, and I saw it when I was coming in here today. But let me just tell you why this place is so special. Recently, I lost my friend of 25 years, Joe Dentisi from Coons Market. What he did with his life is amazing. And when he first purchased some plots at Christ the Redeemer, he would say, you know, Art Rooney's buried down here. And I'd go, Joe. Art Rooney, as in the chief, and obviously my relationship with Dan for many years, and how we would talk high school football and spend time together. I miss him all the time. So I went to visit my friend Joe, who passed away. He had been buried for about a month, and I didn't know where he was at. And I'm pulling in, and I'm kind of emotional, and I stopped just to kind of gather my thoughts, put the brake on, put the car in park, and I looked to my left, Doc, and there is Art Rooney. I mean, now, with all due respect, just a common stone monument in a cemetery with thousands of people, and over just across the way is my friend Joe Dentisi. So just common men who did incredible things with their life. And when I think of Jack McCurry, if you would meet him, he's just a common guy, but as you mentioned, he wanted to become principal. One of the Mount Rushmores of coaches. The utmost respect from his peers, people like Jim Render, Art Walker Sr., people that have really paved the way. Don Yanessa, Frank Morocco, we'd be here all day. But you have such, I'm sure, fond memories, and it's one of the reasons why you, after you retired as a physician, you became a coach. How in the world does that happen?
Yeah, I needed something to do. My wife wanted me out of the house now, but no, so I still wanted to come to Friday night games. I figured, well, I got afternoons free now. I'm going to help coach. I'm not designing plays. I'm not calling plays or doing any of that stuff. I just trying to come here, help with the drills, try to do whatever I can. But I really like working with the kids. And I spend a lot more time now with the kids than I did when I was just a doctor, of course. And I get to know the kids better, and I can really enjoy seeing the improvement of the kids from the beginning of the summer, beginning of August, up through the season. Even though, like you said, we didn't have that great of a record this year, we had a very young team, and we only had 8 seniors on the team this year total. And so a lot of the young kids got to play a lot of time, and they made a lot of improvement. I think there are some bright things in the future.
Listen, all these schools, and I've been to them all, and I've covered all sports, they all mean something to me, but I got to tell you, McCurry and Render really are special to me. And because of my early days here, North Hills was kind of like the launching pad for me, so to kind of go full circle and be back here is special. But one of the things that I did with my friends at Rhino, I said, look, I'll host it, I'll help you get the thing sold, but you got to go out and cover everything, from wrestling and to softball to golf. I just like promoting high school sports, and I also found out from you, you coached lacrosse.
Well, I did. They didn't have lacrosse in my high school, and those, when I was in high school, only the private schools had lacrosse. But I picked up lacrosse actually in a club sport in college, Division III college. I played on a club team, and so then my son played when he was in high school at North Allegheny, and so I did coach for a year here, helped coach for a year. Again, a volunteer position. Again, I wasn't designing plays or anything, but I got to work with the kids, and I enjoyed that a lot too.
All right, as we close, again, thank you to Doc Potter. So excited. I want to remind everyone that I can tell you this for sure. Saturday, Allegheny Health Network Sports Medicine action we have for you. It's Class 5A and 6A championship football at noon, following a pregame at 11, right after I'm done on KDK Radio. We're going to have Pine, Richland, and Peters Township. Going to be an epic battle. Both of those coaches, Plaque and of course LaDawn, will join me on the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday Show after local news at 11. And after a lengthy kind of recap and preview, we're going to have the 6A matchup. One of my favorites, Art Walker Jr., his dad, great family, and Ryan Lahmeyer, who played football at North Hills, and Dr. Mayo repaired his knee and got him back onto the field, doing a great job at Central Catholic, where Dr. Mayo's young son graduated from. So there's nothing quite like it, but you think about your journey and how it started here and all these years later, but you still think about being a part of NA and how that program and that school has grown. What was it like being at North Allegheny back in the 70s and to look at what it's become today?
Well, yeah, North Allegheny was a young. I'm kind of like a guy who was a fan for the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers, because North Allegheny and North Hills were big rivals back in my day. But North Allegheny was a young school district in my day. A lot of young teachers, and it was actually the same size as it is now. It's just that other schools have kind of shrunk. I graduated with 630, and they graduate 600 to 700 now, I believe. But other schools like North Hills used to graduate 600 or 700. Now they only graduate about 400. So, but there's a lot of North Allegheny is good at everything.
Wrestling.
I mean, they're good. They're good at wrestling. They're good at. I think they won again this year. The girls cross country won the states again for the 60th year in a row or something like that. And then they win swimming. My siblings were all American swimmers at North Allegheny.
Okay.
I'm the only one in the family that's not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, you're in my Hall of Fame.
But yeah, so North Allegheny, I'm proud of being a North Allegheny person.
Well,
I'm proud of being associated with North Hills, but I'm also proud of being a North Allegheny person.
Well, Jody Zima, of course, who's now carrying on the legacy with her sister Patrice and brother Frank and son brother Joey, and of course your Pratte Pack, Coons Market. Her daughter, who we affectionately call Catherine, actually is on the rowing team there too.
Yeah.
So that's another exceptional sport that I find absolutely fascinating. But this is a special place, North Hills, is it not?
It is. It is. I mean, like you said, Friday Night Lights here is a special event, and the district, it's a bunch of hardworking people.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's that generation many years ago that decided to move out of the row house that U.S. Steel or J&L or Crucible or Bethlehem Steel built, and they said, let's move out to the suburbs and see what we can do. And they've done an incredible thing here. Let's close on Pat Carey. Talk about what he has meant to the school district and to this football program.
Well, Pat Carey, as I said, he played here. He became a coach here after graduating from James Madison. Assistant coach for many years, head coach now for I think 10 years now. And he loves the school district, and you hear him talk about games here and that sort of thing. I mean, it's just, you can tell that he has a lot of emotional connection with North Hills, and I think the community has a connection with Pat because he's a North Hills person through and through.
And I can tell you this: the other Pat DeMayo, absolutely has such respect for this school district, this administration, as they do with all the schools. And he's got a special connection because of his son at Central. But we always speak in just respectful words whenever we think of Coach McCurry in the North Hills. One more thing: tell him about LeVar Arrington when you first met LeVar Arrington.
I first met LeVar when he was an 8th grader, I think new in the district, and I was doing basketball physicals for junior high. And I think he was 6 foot, 180 pounds as a junior high basketball player. And I thought he was maybe a junior that had just moved into the district or something, because he was clearly an athletic young man. But seeing LeVar play through the years, he's by far the best high school player I had ever seen. He just did amazing things. He started as a freshman at actually wide receiver, and then of course he played all through the 4 years, and amazing athlete.
Well, everybody thinks of him that linebacker at Penn State and in Washington and places, but he could run the football.
Oh yeah. Well, he made the top 10 ESPN plays. He was actually the punter, and the snap went into the end zone. He went back, picked it up, broke 11 tackles and went for a touchdown. He only got credit for an 80-yard run because the line of scrimmage was at the 80, but he really ran over 100 yards and they counted on the ESPN 11 different tackles he broke up and ran for a touchdown on a broken play.
Hey, I'm just a fan now, and I love every minute. This is just me doing what I do. And we're going to be doing more of these things throughout not just football, but basketball season whenever I can. And I want to thank everyone at the Allegheny Health Network and Highmark, of course, and my friend Dr. Mayo in the Orthopedics Division, because they give us the opportunity, along with all of our other sponsors, and there are so many, to do what they do at KDK Radio. And if you haven't tuned in, you should. It's incredible. Believe me, it's the best I've ever heard as far as high school sports coverage. And if you want, get the Odyssey app, AUDACY, and download it to your phone. Remember, it's your Pratte Pack, and we'll be with you later tonight with Dr. Gerald Pfeiffer, who was on the school board for many years at North Allegheny. All of that coming up tonight, right after local news at 7. And beginning at 6, being that you went to Pitt Medical School, Pat Narduzzi, that show will be heard on KDK Radio. So I just have to ask you, I'm a huge Pitt fan. Huge Pitt fan. It's causing me sleepless nights. You know, Eric Kasparovich spent a little time as a non-paid assistant there. I still think, my opinion, we need more of that WPIAL flavor somewhere on the sidelines to start keeping some of these athletes at home. Franklin's had enough. Arrington, we gave you that one, but no more. Tom Bradley did it for years. I still love Pitt. There's something about the blue and gold, is there not?
Yeah, I'm a Pitt fan also. I went to medical school with Danny Marino was a quarterback. You probably heard of him.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have.
So I used to go to the Pitt games back then, and I've been a Pitt fan. And you're right. This is not a good year for Pitt. Hopefully they can turn it around in the future. And I don't think more WPIL players would be a bad thing.
Well, let me tell you how much Dan Marino is still trending. So C.J. Stroud's having this really great season. Could be an MVP, definitely Rookie of the Year in Houston. Ohio State guy, Dr. Mayo. We love Ohio State, the history of Woody and Earl Bruce from Salem, Ohio, and Archie Griffin and all that good stuff. But every time some young person does something as a rookie, as a quarterback, we haven't seen that since Dan Marino. Yeah. I tell people, whether you talk Patrick Mahomes, even the great Ben Roethlisberger, I don't care, Josh Allen, if I was the man behind the brand of any NFL team and everything was on an even playing field and Marino had just graduated from Pitt, he would be my first pick to this day as far as my franchise quarterback. That's the kind of talent that guy had in my heart. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, listen, Doc Rob Potter, I kept him long enough. Hey, folks, we'll see you later tonight on the radio. It's your Pratte Pack. Thank you, North Hills.
Oh, I forgot to turn it on.
You know.